Hello, welcome back. As you can see, the tractor unit is finished. There's a couple of little bits I need to do, but I'll explain that in a minute or two. It's been a job. It's certainly been a challenge, but it's all done now, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second or two. As you remember, we'll get this thing stopped spinning around. As I mentioned to you on the last video, the cab was already finished and the dashboard just needed painting. It took a lot of time to paint it, and a lot of bits and pieces needed to be, that thing's still spinning in the background, I can see it on the camera. There we go. It took quite a lot of work to actually paint it, but as you can see, I think it's come up alright. I've weathered it slightly, not a lot, because all the ones that I've seen videos of, the real trucks, they've been relatively clean for a working truck. So that's the way I've painted mine. On the paintwork, you might notice that the mirrors are white, and there's a white corner on here, which when I drove heavy haulage with we used to call these bullnose trucks, T-cabs they call them these days, they call them all sorts of names really. This here had a pogo stick on it, this corner would have a pogo stick on it, so you could see where this bit of your bumper was on both sides. It saved you knocking walls down and things. And if you have mirrors here, they paint them white, so anybody coming in this direction saw them and didn't knock them off, knock them flying, which happens quite regularly. If you're a wagon driver, you know that. You've had them banged up before. So that's why they're white, and on most of the trucks that I've seen the videos of when they're still in service, there's either white on here. Sometimes on some of them that were in the desert, in the Gulf, the different countries' flags were painted on here. Poland was one, so they obviously, so they could be recognised, and it was painted on this bit here. While I'm talking about this bit here, I've mentioned many times that this kit's missing really quite a lot of detail. Here there are two steps, there's one on each side, and they don't exist on the kit. So what I've done there is I've bent two pieces of wire over and glued them in there, and they more or less look like the actual steps on the truck. There's, as I say, there's a lot of detail been missed off on it. So that explains the white on there. I mentioned that I was going to do a Scammell sign. I've made a bit of a mistake with it really. It should go from about here to about here, and I didn't realise that until I put the number plate on, but it was too late by then. There are a couple of other things. I bought, as I mentioned, the letters from Accurate Armour. Now, as they are now, you can see them quite well, but they're shiny. It's the photo etch in its raw state, if you like, just a piece of brass. I've done that because no matter how hard I tried, the photo etch is so, how can I put it? So you can see on the L there's no leg on the L, it's just basically a bar. There is a leg, but it's ever so tiny. On the M, when you paint it, the three little nicks that define it as an M literally disappear with the paint. So it just looks like two cubes on the two squares on the front there. So what I decided to do was do that, and you know, it's not right, but it's better than not being there at all, I think. And while I've got the bonnet off there, I might as well show you that as well. Not that I'm going to explain it, I think I've explained most of it before. That's the wiring for all the lighting, which I'll show you in a minute or two. And as you can see, it gets a bit complex in there. There's not a lot of room. Fortunately, it's quite a big bonnet on these things. In real life, that bonnet was made out of fiberglass apparently. It wasn't made by Scammell. I can't remember the name of the company that made them now. And they sent them to Scammell as a ready-made unit. Oh, one other thing I've done with I think I mentioned on the last video, they spent quite a lot of time doing really quite a nice job on the word Commander on the side there, and then didn't do a Scammell badge, but literally with a permanent marker, just wiping it across the top. It's hard to get that so it doesn't glare. There we go. Wiping it across the top of there very, very carefully, and your letters come out really, I think, really quite nicely. So that's that, and that's under the bonnet. When the bonnet's fitted, I thought they'd made a mistake with the bonnet. When it's fitted, there's a gap, as you can see at the front there, but that's there on the real wagon. That is correct, because it won't push any further forward there, which is what stumped me a little bit. But yeah, there is a gap under there. I'll imagine to allow warmth from the engine to come up on the outside of the windscreen. If that's where it is, it's not a bad idea. So now that I've shown you what's on there, I shall fix that in place, and that'll be there forever. I'll also put the bonnet catches on once that's fixed in place. The mirrors, always been a bit of a problem for me. I've always struggled with them, but these mirrors are basically clear all the way through. Instead of making the mirror two parts and one part plastic and then another part glass, they've made the whole thing clear perspex. So I've painted one side white, and you may be able to see they're actually, no, I'm covering it up, but they are quite mirror-like. Yeah, you can see it there. You can see the reflection in the mirrors, and the same on the side door mirrors on the cab. But as I say, it's hard to get its focus. But what I used for that is our friends in China sent me 2 of these for £1 something and free postage. A Demel chrome marker, paint marker, and they really do work very well. I like that. So that's the mirrors. Painted all the handrails black because I wanted to, not necessarily that they are. The window frames, you may remember the truck I did, the M911, which was an Oshkosh, an 8-wheeler Oshkosh, and I put the windows in not realising that you had to paint the frames black and then paint the edge of the window black. And those of us that are old enough will remember when windows were put into vehicles using rubber seals rather than being glued in. If you don't paint the frame and then paint the glass, what you end up with is a clear plastic bit around the edge that doesn't look right at all. So you've got to spend unfortunately a bit of time painting the edge of the glass to represent the rubber. While I'm in there, these windscreen wipers, the little bit on the back of them that's supposed to go to here and glue in, as you can see, it moves, and that's because, I doubt if we able to see yeah, you can actually see the gap. There's about a 2-3 mil gap, and it doesn't fit. It just won't go in. It would do now, but the only reason it does that now is because I've glued it to the glass, to the windscreen, and that's been done on both sides. And it's not right, but you need a very keen eye to see it at normal resolution. So that's the windscreen wipers. These 2 pieces here, I think you can see those. These 2 pieces here are pane. They are intended to carry 2 working lights, one on each side, and they're on a pin so that you can move the working light around and move it up and down and so forth. On the trailer, which I'll show you in another video, there are 2 working lights like that, and what I was going to do was copy those, make a resin copy of those and put them on these 2 holders. However, there's always a however, isn't there? They're so fragile that they broke off several times, and because of that I didn't think it was worth the effort of putting more weight on them and wire and all the rest of it. and then have them break off again. So I've just left them as they came with the kit without a light on them. One way that I tried to fix those, you probably see that there's quite a lot of glue and gunge in there. One way I tried to fix those was I spent £10 on this thing. Don't buy one, it's a complete waste of money. It's supposed to be a UV light glue, and what you get is you get a little torch, a little UV torch, which I think is simply a blue LED, to be honest. You open the cap and you've got another cap inside, and you pull that cap off and you've got a very fine nozzle. What you're supposed to do, stick it on my finger now, what you're supposed to do with it is squeeze that on to whatever you've got to stick. The advertising says that it will glue anything. No, it won't. Glue it, put a little bit on, put your two pieces together, and while you're holding them, use the UV light. 5 seconds it says, and it'll be fixed. You can put it on there for 5 years if you want, it won't fix it. So what it will do, even the lid won't go on it now. What a lot of junk. What I ended up doing was tacking it with that glue, and then mixing up a little bit of resin and putting some resin on there, and hopefully that will hold it in place for some time. You may see there's a couple of bits of yellow paint on here. On the instructions for the kit, that yellow paint isn't there, it doesn't exist. However, when you look at the real trucks, the fuel cap is yellow, and let me turn her around a bit. The fuel cap on this side is yellow. Also, on this side, I've put the fuel lines in, you can see, they're not on the instructions. You've got a fuel line that's a crossover line that goes over to the other tank. I don't know how well you can see that, to be honest. Let's have a look. Yeah, a bit better. You have a fuel line there behind the cap that goes over to the other tank. That's a crossover line. Then you have two fuel lines that go into the fuel valve there, and that valve is your shut-off valve for your fuel. On the other side, the kit says to put that same valve in on this side, but it doesn't exist in real life. The bracket does, because they make the tanks, the fuel tanks, exactly the same. And you can see the crossover line comes back across here, and the two fuel lines head off into under the bonnet. For some reason there's a piece of photo etch that goes on there that I put on. There's no apparent reason for it. I'm sure there would have been some writing on it, but I can't find a picture of it either. And no photo etch to go on this one. Strange but true. There you go. And what else have I got? So it's the fuel lines, the fuel shut off. I've put the Susies in. As you may remember, I've done in the past I've done these, and they are actually wires that are of use. These will plug into the front of the trailer. There's 4 of them. This side with the yellow and black, so that would be in real life that would be the electrical line and the yellow Susie. They carry the power for the flashing lights, and in real life you'd have the red and blue line. There were 3 line brakes on these trucks, and you would have the red and blue, and they're for the constant glow lights, and they all 4 of those will plug into the front of the trailer. Show you on the next video with that. Now I've exaggerated a couple of bits on this that you might be able to see. I can't see it now. No, I did it on the fuel thing there. Fuel shut off. Where's he gone? There, and put the paint on a little bit thick, so it looked a bit like rust. It's not really showing up on the camera. There on the corner of the cab I did the same, and when you look at the trucks in real life, there's quite a lot of rusty bits on them that's been painted over. So I thought I'd try and emulate that. Maybe, obviously it doesn't work that well because you can't see them that well. What else have I got? I've got all the transfers on, not that there are very many. This one here is for your drain valve on that air tank there. It's DT, so drain tap they've called it, but underneath in days of old, before you had self-bleeding air tanks, you used to have to pull a little cord on the bottom and all the sludge would come out the bottom of the tank. So that's what that's for, it's telling you where they are, because of course there's air tanks underneath there. And then on the other side you've got exactly the same. On that side it's drain tap again on that side. These little white bits are your fuel gauge. It was one step up from when I was driving heavy wagons like these, where we had a stick. You put the stick in and measured how far the fuel came up the stick. If there was no fuel on the stick, you need your fuel. Simplistic really, but it worked for many years. All the lights are on and all painted up. I may have shown you those last time, I can't remember. The number plate, in the instructions it says to put the number plate on there, and there's simply no room on there to put the number plate. So I made the mud flaps myself, so I put the number plate on the mud flap, and it also shows that there's a plate for the number plate to go on, but there isn't. It's another mystery, but there you go. And I think that's about all I've got to tell you about there. I have a little crib sheet here, but yeah, that's about it. And the inside, the pictures will show this much better, but you can see a little bit of the cab in there, a little bit of the dashboard. Okay, and as I mentioned, when it's all put together on its display stand, this will have its own power source, and that will be in the trailer. But as you can see at the front there, you've got the spot lamps underneath, fog lamps, headlamps in the bumper bar, side lights are in the bumper bar as well, you can just see that one there. On the back, you've got a cab light on the inside. Might be able to see a bit more on the inside of the cab. No, my lights are overtaking that one. At the back there you can see all the lights are lit up. Side lights, brake lights and reversing lamps, they all light up all nice and neatly. Some of those are reflectors on there. And then if we change the wiring over, to the other side, and we get the two indicators on the back. I've used them as hazard lights obviously. The two beacons on the roof, they flash. The indicators on the side flash along quite nicely, and the indicators at the front, that one's a bit dull. I might have put too much paint on that one, we'll see. And that is the electrics done. I say it's done, it sounds as though I did it in 5 minutes. It took really very long time to get all those done. We have removed a mirror. One of the problems with these mirrors is that they don't stick on. As you may be able to see, I'll just show you that again there now. That mirror is hard to see, but it's moving around all over the place. You can't see, no. Yeah, you can see me moving it. They're quite hard to stick on, and I've no idea why. Again, I tried this and used it on these, and I've obviously forgotten that one. Used it on the other mirrors, and then mixed up resin and put resin on them, and that seemed to, well, it's held them. Trouble is, it makes a lump on the back of the mirror. You know, it's one devil or the other there, isn't it? That is about it, and I think that looks fantastic. They're a good looking truck, they always have been a good looking truck. I like British trucks. Power and elegance really. I'll do the trailer, get the trailer finished off, and then I'll do a video of it. And then after we've done the trailer, I'll do a final reveal. I'm going to make a little roadway for it to sit on, and I have a Challenger 2 tank which I built some months ago, and that's going on the back of it. That's where it'll live in its display. Any questions or comments, please feel free to put them down below. I always try and answer, and it would be great if you could like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Ta-da!